Greetings from Cybertron. This is SoundJack here with another episode of SoundJack's Rambles. And today I'm here with Noah.
Hi.
He is back 2 weeks in a row. And new face on my podcasts, Underscore Zeus. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I got new robots. I saw Infinity War last weekend. I'm very good right now.
That is good, and especially the Infinity War.
My birthday was on Wednesday, so...
Yes, and happy birthday to you!
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. He shares a birthday with Iron Man, which we talked about last week in preparation for this week's topic, which is also good that he saw it, that Zeus saw it, is Infinity War, or more...
I also share a birthday with Dwayne Johnson.
That is also true. That is also true. But yes... Avengers Infinity War, the latest Marvel film to come out, has come out, and holy crap, there are so many people in this film.
There are a lot of people, there's a lot of things going on, so
okay.
We should probably start talking about it soon.
Yes. Normally I would do brief summary of the film before we get into spoiler territory.
That's going to be
impossible. There's no such thing as a brief anything in this movie.
Precisely, which is why I'm considering skipping it for this one. If you want...
Wait, I could do a real brief summary. Thanos wants the Infinity Stones. He goes around getting the Infinity Stones. The Avengers try to stop him getting the Infinity Stones. Chaos ensues.
That is actually pretty apt. Because this has been built up in a lot of the previous Marvel films, starting with the first Avengers movie with Thanos at the end there.
This is a movie 6 years in the making, at least, assuming that they hadn't initially planned for it, which I'm guessing they did because it's Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't know how well it was going to go at first. They might have just canned it after the first Avengers. You never know. They might have,
but
yeah,
it did end up being a critical financial success. So no way in hell were they letting that go down the toilet.
Nope.
They weren't letting it go.
I totally forgot about that end credits scene.
Yeah.
That you just mentioned, Michael. What movie was that after?
Avengers.
Wow.
That was like the biggest one.
Yes.
I forgot about that totally. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, because at that point he was just giant purple dude to you, probably. He was to me.
Well, I have only seen all of the Marvel, well, with the exception of Iron Man and Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen all of the current Marvel Cinematic Universe once with you, Michael.
Yes, that is also very true.
I've seen every one, and there are only a couple that I've only seen once, and those are Iron Man 2, Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor 2, and no, I did see Doctor Strange twice, never mind.
We did watch Dark World, right, Noah?
What?
We did see Thor Dark World, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I still can't remember that one. But anyway, off topic.
That was boring and is unimportant also.
Yes. Well, it is important because that is the origin of one of the Infinity Stones in this that are important to this movie. But anyway, let's just jump into the spoiler territory. So, where do we want to start talking?
I'm sorry. I was going to make a joke, but I jumped on your question. Please go on.
Okay. Well, the question was, where do we want to start?
Let's start with saying, why did half of the people die the same way that Voldemort died?
Okay.
Maybe Thanos is a big Harry Potter fan.
Okay.
Why are you judging?
Okay, spoilers for Harry Potter in here as well, because I haven't finished watching Harry Potter yet.
Oh no.
I only got up to number 5, that's it.
I was going to say, if somebody hasn't seen Harry Potter and you tell them that Voldemort's defeated by turning into butterflies, nobody will believe them anyway.
But that's what happens.
I honestly don't even remember the last Harry Potter movie.
We are very off topic.
Well, that's what happens when I'm on the show. You should know that by now.
That is very true. That is very true. But
Anyway,
Let's why don't we talk about one of the subplots, but I don't know which one you want to start with.
ooh, wait, may I bring something up? It goes way into spoiler territory.
I mean, we're already in spoiler territory, so everyone's been warned.
Okay, here we
Good
go.
times.
The movie and the Marvel as a representation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This movie, while I loved it, falls victim to what I like to call the Sherlock complex. Have either of you seen Sherlock? Because this is also minor spoilers for Sherlock.
I've seen every episode.
Okay.
I've seen like 2. But go ahead.
Are you very invested in it?
No.
Okay. Well, I think that Avengers Infinity War falls victim to what I like to call the Sherlock complex, which is when you, as a franchise, start playing with death so much and you hinge large plot points on the fact that somebody important dies, and then later on they somehow actually didn't die. It happens in a lot of franchises, but it's particularly prevalent in the Sherlock seasons as they've progressed. That more
It happens a lot.
Yeah, because again, giant spoilers. The giant plot point of the end of season 2 of Sherlock is that he dies, he kills himself, but then he comes back, and that's effective because we think he's dead. But throughout, as the seasons progress, more people die, but then they don't really die, and then they come back, and then they die, but they don't really die. So by the 4th season, when Sherlock looks like he's about to die, nobody cares, because you know that he's going to come back, because that's the world of the show.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Infinity War, and I'm going to see it again in like 2 days, I think the movie falls victim to the Sherlock complex because there are deaths in the movie that I do believe are final, like Gamora and Loki and Vision. But so many people, like even in this movie, Iron Man almost dies and then miraculously doesn't. And so when the big ending of the movie is half of these people are dying, I don't have strong feelings because historically these people somehow manage never to I'm sorry.
You're good. I can bleep it.
I'm getting heated. These, no matter how dramatic it is, these characters never freaking die. So when you're having this sort of mass genocide of people, even though it's a very dramatic device and a dramatic plot point and a wonderful ending, I don't have the emotional investment in that because historically it's proved like 90% of the time to not be final.
Mm-hmm.
I open that up for discussion.
Okay, so I went in knowing that most of the deaths, if any, because I knew some people were going to die. I didn't know how many were going to die, obviously. I figured a good amount of them would not be final. I still cried at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Yes. I was definitely tearing up. Mostly with Spider-Man's passing.
I mean, absolutely, yeah. And there's no way they're going to kill him off permanently. He's got a successful franchise, and it's just starting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that is also that aspect, knowing that this franchise is continuing and knowing what movies are coming, does hinder, does play into what Noah was talking about, because one of the people that dies thanks to Thanos' snap is Black Panther, and we know there is a Black Panther 2 already, so already in the works, already scheduled. So he cannot stay dead.
Right. And I think when something like that happens, it, at least in my mind, it makes me question the rest of the deaths.
Mhm.
Because I do personally think that Gamora is dead. But there's also going to be a Guardians 3. There's going to be a Guardians ride in Epcot. And
There's already one in the
exactly.
Hollywood, the California Disneyland.
There's already one in Disney California Adventure.
Which I've been on. It's fun.
It's fantastic. There's a walk-around Gamora character that you can meet and greet.
There's a walker. Okay, to that point, real quick, at Universal Studios Hollywood, there is a walk-around Megatron based on his original movie design. That design no longer exists.
It's the Revenge of the Fallen design. But anyway.
Shut up. They're the same thing. It's just one's a jet, one's a tank.
Anyway.
This goes into a side point that that we may discuss on a later episode about canon in theme parks, which is something that I've thought long and hard about, because if Groot died and there's Baby Groot, why can you still meet Big Groot in Disney California Adventure? Things like that.
Because there is no canon in theme parks. It's whatever's most marketable. To that point also, for the longest time before Spider-Man Homecoming came out, and I think even a little after, the Spider-Man that they had in California Adventure was based off the Amazing Spider-Man. Like, you could tell it was the Amazing Spider-Man costume.
Right. And I understand why they're doing it. Like you said, for the marketing aspect of it. However, the original business model for the original theme parks, and now, forgive me for digressing slightly, but this is my knowledge base.
Oh, yeah.
The original theme park, the concept is to enter you into a themed environment. And in the past 20, 30 years, a lot of those themed environment have been through the forms of IP, intellectual properties, like pre-existing movies and franchises. And yet there are very obvious plot holes that used to be avoided. That you used to not be able to meet the villains that died at the end of movies. But then you would start seeing things like, and now this is a full digression, but you would see Rapunzel with her long hair, even though it was cut at the end of Tangled. Now you gotta put Tangled spoiler in the description as well. But then there starts to be things like that in any other environment I wouldn't have a problem with, but the fact that your entire hook of getting people to come to this location is the idea of stepping into the movie, stepping into this themed environment that is supposed to be canon to some degree, leads me to question all of this stuff, because regardless of what you believe the theme park's message to be, there should be consistency. And just like we know the lineup of movies that are coming out, and unfortunately we can predict plots based on that, that also seems to be a thing in relation to theme parks. Because, again, I think Gamora is dead, for real. But how does that affect all this stuff in the parks? I think the short answer is it doesn't. It's business, but it's a theme park and it should. Mm-hmm. So how does that impact the movie? Because I think the movie would be even stronger if they wrote the story knowing that the audience knows what movies are coming up. Because like you said, we know Black Panther's coming out. Black Panther 2 is coming out. So why did they kill him if like 90% of the audience knows that he's going to come back? Like, again, I put that out for discussion, but things like that, I think a movie should always be made. A movie should be aware of of the time in which it's being made.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fair criticism.
That is
An
a fair.
absolutely fair criticism. And I don't really have anything in argument against that. But
No.
at the same time, I still think it was effective.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I just think it's a bummer, and they should account for it.
Well, here's the thing I've been thinking about since of Infinity War.
Sure.
Because we've also, along with knowing that there's going to be movies such as Black Panther 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, since they also killed off all but Rocket from the Guardians.
And potentially, real quick, just getting this out there, they potentially didn't kill Groot because his arm was part of the Storm Breaker. Is that the name of the hammer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they could try to grow him back from that, maybe?
Yes.
I don't think it's going to happen, but it is entirely possible.
That is true. But my point is, knowing those films coming out, and with knowing those films coming out, we also do know there is what used to be called Avengers Infinity War Part 2, but is regardless, despite the name of whatever it becomes, next year will be another Avengers film continuing on, presumably from the end of Infinity War. And presumably what will happen is that they will get the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos and fix what he did. And meaning that the characters that disappeared because of Thanos' snap are, in my head, more so guaranteed to survive the next Avengers film. If that makes sense.
I never thought of that.
Because
that's smart.
Because going into this film, most people, I don't think, thought this film was going to end with Thanos actually having all 6 Infinity Stones and achieving his goal. I do not think that's what they thought. I think most people were thinking this was going to be split over this movie and the next Avengers movie. So, since this film ended with Thanos winning, this next film, since the universe is continuing, has to be Thanos losing to the Avengers. The story involved in that is that we want to see how that happens. And the ones that disappear are the ones that we can be assured of will survive onto, what is it going to be, phase 4 of the...
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the other thing, actually. Moving off of that.
Michael Blaine, you completely turned around my opinion on that.
Yes.
That actually is brilliant.
I think that, wow.
Yeah.
Because you're right, a lot of the newer people are the ones that Thanos snap faded.
Yes.
That's very interesting because when you said earlier, about a minute and a half ago, you were like, well, then the next movie is going to be them trying to get him back. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's not very interesting because I know they will get them back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a much more fascinating movie if they have to get it back at what price? ?
Yes.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Because
a lot of the people that survived the snap are the ones, first of all, of course, they're the original Avengers, but also they're the ones who presumably their contracts are up for negotiation again and or are going to be out soon.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So
I didn't even think of that twist.
Yeah, it's more so that these people, the people that have survived, are more likely to die and stay dead, as
they're more likely to face permadeath than the other people who are.
And on top, and while we're talking about that, that can also be supported with the fact that both Sam Wilson and Bucky disappear, because in the comics lore, both of them at different points have taken up the mantle of Captain America, and if Steve Rogers' Captain America does die in the next Avengers film, either of them are capable of taking it up. What?
I would love if Spider-Man became Iron Man. I think that would be so funny.
That would. But yeah, that way if Captain America does die, we've got 2 spares.
Yes.
What I was saying.
Yeah. And then, of course, the question is, how will they all die? Who is going to die and how is that going to die? And that's going to be the question for.
Okay, I think if Iron Man dies, he's going to get stabbed through the arc reactor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would just be like a real clever way to do it.
Yeah.
Or at least somewhat poetic.
Yeah, and they totally set that up in the beginning of this movie. That Pepper was like, "Why do you have that thing?" And he's like, "I like it."
And
so that totally makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because for a lot of these, like we're saying, it's pretty. It seems pretty likely that Iron Man and or Captain America are gonna die, and so we're not even discussing that as if maybe it'll happen. We're assuming it's going to happen, and the interesting thing that we will see, the thing that'll make it interesting and make it take my money, will be how. What are the specific circumstance that leads to this, for lack of a better term, this pop icon of the past decade go away forever?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that they totally dropped the ball on in Pirates 5 in terms of, again, put Pirates 5 spoilers in this now.
I don't think anyone cares about Pirates 5 spoilers because no one cared about Pirates 5.
No, I hope they don't. But like, they totally dropped the ball on how Barbossa dies. Like that was tremendously unfulfilling to me, and because
also a little bit of Sherlock syndrome because he had died and come back to life before.
Exactly. No, exactly. When you play with death so much in a supernatural movie like Sherlock, Sherlock's not supernatural, but it borders on it. And then Pirates, and then Avengers. When you make light of death, it's hard to put it back in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that Pirates 5 permanently killed is the Pirates franchise.
Oh!
Throwing shade all over the place today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I certainly hope that the Pirates franchise is done. They've done damage.
Mm-hmm.
You could call me Oak Tree, because I'm throwing shade all over the place.
Ooh.
Anyway,
I think we're done with that now.
Yeah, I think we're done with that train of thought. Quickly, though, on the death train of thought, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
What happened to Wong? What happened to Shuri? What happened to Pepper?
What was the middle person?
Shuri.
Who?
The Black Panther sister.
Oh, sorry. I can barely keep track of the names of the first Avengers, let alone the new ones.
It's all good. Because they all...
That's a big question.
Because we've seen them all, but we don't see if they survive. And while I brought Pepper into it, no, she's still relevant because she may play an important part of Tony Stark's story in the last film if she is alive. That is important. Wong and Shuri are both two people. Shuri's not necessarily the superhero level because she's kind of more of the tech person in the background. But she's nonetheless an important person that is associated with, now is associated with the Avengers that we don't know of their status.
Okay, but also, while we're on that, what about Happy? What about Ned?
Ooh.
Asking the real questions here.
Yeah.
We didn't even see Happy in this film. But we did see Ned.
Yeah. So what I think is, I don't think Pepper's going to be around. That's what I'm thinking. Wong, probably. Shuri, probably, because they both lost their associated superheroes. So it would make sense for them to still be around to try to help the Avengers out to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper, I think, is going to be gone because, Tony survived. And realistically, I think at that point, if Pepper weren't gone, he would have just given up and said, there's no way we're getting out of this. But if he tries to bring Pepper back, that I think is going to be the driving force behind him trying to help to get everyone else back.
Mm-hmm.
Because he seemed very defeated at the end after Peter died.
Yeah. Peter and everyone else but Gamora.
Yeah.
Well, where he was.
Well, you mean Nebula then?
Yes, why did I say Gamora? Nebula.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yes. Sorry for the confusion there, folks. I meant the blue one, not the green one.
Yeah.
But okay. So, if we're done with that, I think the next thing I want to talk about is the last Infinity Stone. Because
which last Infinity Stone? You mean the newest one that was introduced in the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
that could have meant either soul or mind, depending on if you meant the last one to show up or the last one to be introduced in the universe.
That is true. That is completely fair. What I did mean by it was the last stone to appear within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because going in, everyone's like, where's the Soul Stone? Where's the Soul Stone? Where's the Soul Stone? And everyone's like, okay, it's either going to be in Heimdall or it's going to be in him, because it's going to make a funny little rhyme. It's going to funnily spell out Thanos' name. And then they're like, screw you, we're going to put it on an alien world called Vormir that you've never heard of before.
I thought it was going to be in Wakanda.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people thinking it was going to be in Wakanda, because why else would it be in Wakanda? Why else would there be a fight in Wakanda if there wasn't an Infinity Stone there, but it turned out it was just Vision?
Yeah, but my thinking was because Wakandans are so closely connected to like the spiritual plane because of the vibranium and all that, I thought the meteor was going to end up containing the Soul Stone. That
is also true. That I do remember hearing of that one because of, yes, like you said, the spirit realm stuff.
Or whatever it was called, the Ghost Dimension. I don't know.
Whatever.
The Ghost Zone. Let's bring in Danny Phantom. Make this even more ambitious. It was the Ghost Zone.
I knew it.
Something, most ambitious crossover ever.
Yes.
Speaking of crossover, Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, let's finish talking about Vormir though, because we didn't even get to that yet.
Yeah. Because there's another important thing about Vormir. I didn't believe it when I saw it at first. I'm like, oh, they were actually able to do it. They had Red Skull back from Captain America, the first Avenger.
See, now this was like the only thing I was spoiled on. And I had heard it, and I thought, no, this is clearly fake. There's no way that they would do that. It makes no sense. But, like, they did it. And sure, to me, it's still kind of weird that they did it, but the way they explained it, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mind that much. The Space Stone sent him there. The Tesseract.
Right.
Because I thought he disintegrated, but it actually seemed to have teleported him.
Yeah. Which I guess makes sense, and that makes him one of only, like, 3, I think, villains from the Marvel Universe who didn't die, technically, by the end of their movie.
I still think that, what's his name from Iron Man 1 should make an appearance.
Stane? Obadiah Stane?
Okay, I'm sorry, 4. I forgot about the Vulture.
I would love if Thanos was just Obadiah.
Like, he just takes his face off.
Right.
Don't you recognize me, Tony? I'm Obadiah Stane, your father's best friend. And also, I'm the Big Lebowski.
I think that would be a twist nobody would expect.
No.
I really just want to hear... Now I just want to hear Thanos say the line, I'm the Big Lebowski, man. If anyone listening happens to know Josh Brolin, get him to say that, please.
Good.
All right, Michael, rein us in.
So anyone else have any other comments in regards to Vormir and the Soul Stone or Red Skull?
Oh, the Soul Stone, actually, yes, because the Russo brothers apparently confirmed that Gamora is inside the Soul Stone.
What?
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 Like, remember the scene from the very end where Thanos talks to, like, little Gamora and everything is kind of orangish? That was confirmed to be inside the Soul Stone. So, like...
What does that mean?
What?
What does that mean?
That means her soul is in the Soul Stone, which means maybe she's dead, maybe she's not.
Oh, come on. That was one of the... Oh, that means... Oh, that's...
I really think that they're going to keep it permanent, though. I think that by the end, the Infinity Stones are going to be destroyed.
Okay.
So, like, at the very least, she'll be dead for a while before they track down all the pieces. Maybe that'll be Guardians 3 will be them trying to get her back.
But I don't... Yeah, I mean, that... Oh, that sounds plausible. Just because, like, if they can bring Red Skull back, they could bring Gamora back with this apparently confirmed plot point. Like, if her soul is in the Soul Stone, all you need to do is find a way to get the soul out of the Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm.
What if they put her inside Adam Warlock?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What if you put her in a different body?
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be kind of interesting to have it where Adam Warlock is still himself, but also he communicates with her, and that's like how they get her back. Is that she's sort of back.
So, for context for Noah, because I don't think you know what Zeus is talking about, do you?
Explain it to me anyway.
Okay. So he's referring to Adam Warlock, who in the Marvel comics was the first bearer of the Soul Stone, or at the time the Soul Gem.
Or actually, at the time, it was one of the Soul Gems.
Yes, but I don't think we need to get into that.
Being the Infinity Gems. I know, but I just watched McFeely's video on the Infinity Gems. So
that's very
I know
true.
Things today.
That is very true. Chris McFeely did a video on the basics of the Infinity Stone. So if you want to see that, it's all comic stuff, so you can check that out. But Adam Warlock also happens to be a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy from time to time. And at the end of Guardians of the
post-credit scenes in Guardians 2, it showed Aisha. Was that the gold person's name? Is that her name?
Maybe.
The gold woman using some kind of weird space incubator to create a new perfect life form, which she called Adam, which is presumably going to be Adam Warlock.
Because Adam Warlock also tends to have yellow gold skin. So.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Noah?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if the Soul Stones do survive on, it is very possible the Soul Stone does end up in Adam Warlock's possession, and that is the plot of Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Not only in his possession, in his forehead.
Yes. Yeah. He does wear it very similar to Vision.
Huh.
So.
Which is, I believe, where they actually got the idea from. Even though in the comics, Vision also had some kind of yellow gem in his head.
Yeah.
They just kind of mixed the two things together.
Yeah. They also mixed the colors of what stone was which.
Yeah, but that's not important. That's getting way too deep into stuff.
That is very much way too deep. But, yeah, Soul Stone, very, very important. But another important thing is Thanos' plan. The wipe out half of life in the universe.
Which side of the spectrum do you fall on for that? Because I've heard people say it makes sense. I've heard people say that's stupid. Why would he do that? Where do you fall on that?
I'll let Noah go first. Do you want to go first, Noah?
Can you pose the question one more time, just so I make sure I'm answering the right thing?
Sure.
Do you think that his plan to wipe out half the universe makes sense, or do you think it's kind of a bad plan and there were better ways to go about it?
I've been thinking about this a little bit as well. That people, before I saw the movie, people were like, oh, the only real feedback I heard about Thanos was, oh man, this is one of the best villains. And when I first saw him, I'm like, this is just another dude trying to rule the world. However, as we went through the movie, it was more and more clear that he was attempting to do something good, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind, it was good, yes.
However, the second however, and this is not a fully formed thought, but I think that while his mission is amiable, like I understand what he's trying to do, you cannot, in my opinion, think that wiping out half of the population will be an immediate good thing unless you view yourself as above everybody else. Like, his thing does not work unless you are the elitist of elite and you do not value which lives you are taking.
Well, first of all, it seems like he doesn't. And second, the other thing is, and I've heard a lot of people say this, like a lot of the criticism I've heard is, oh, why didn't he just double all the resources in the universe? The way I see it is, he's doing it to prove a point more than anything.
Which
like,
inherent flaw. Like, who is he proving the point to? Because if he's trying to create, I don't know what his catchphrase was, like peace or harmony or whatever.
Balance the universe.
Does he really think that is going to be a short-term result of this? Like, is there anybody in the world that's not going to be personally affected by this in some way? Like,
I think the way he sees it is greater good, but also he wants to prove that works. Like, has anyone ever told you, oh, there's no way that you can, like, cook dinner at the same time as trying to make an important phone call, but then you do it just to prove them wrong?
Yes, but...
It's like that, but on a universal scale and to a group of people that are dead.
Well, to be dead is the first thing that's weird, because they're dead. You can't prove anything to anybody. But I think that makes sense to a point. However, once you get to the grand scale... hold on. I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me back up. So you said the thing about... You can cut this, Michael.
Okay.
No, leave it in. This is canon.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay.
It's my brain devolving.
That's my brain. Every day, every hour of every day, it's just a little bit more leaves me.
I think something that I was trying to say was along the lines of, you cannot do things to make a point if nobody's going to take the point. Like, if you're making a point to A, a bunch of dead people, and B, people who will obviously hate you when you demolish half of their people, then who's really benefiting from this? By the time people start benefiting from this, Thanos will be dead. Oh, I remember. The plot hole in that, to me, that your argument holds up to the point in which I don't think he can be simultaneously so incredibly selfless and so incredibly selfish at the same time. I think that he thinks he's being genuinely selfless.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he's not, like, also maybe not the smartest person in the universe. Necessarily. Because he got this idea in his head. He thinks it'll work. Other people doubted him, and now he's doing it to prove that he was right.
Because if he's doing it to prove, like, if he's doing it to balance the universe, that's selfless. But if he's doing it to prove himself to a bunch of dead people, that is selfish.
The way I see it is him saying that he's doing it to balance the universe is the way he justifies it to himself, when in reality he knows that it's because he just wants to prove these people that ended up dying wrong.
And that makes sense.
That, or another popular theory is he just is kind of like toying with people too, which is why maybe he doesn't always use the full extent of his power in combat.
Interesting. Yeah, I just kind of want to know, like, I want to dive deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, having him have to kill Gamora was a wonderful insight into him. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying he's a wonderful and complicated villain.
Because the way I see it is, like, he's dead set on this. Even if, in his mind, he has some doubts, he's just so dead set, and he's gone so far through with this, that at this point, to him, it makes no sense to just give up.
Right.
So, I've not said my thoughts on this yet.
Yeah, you're right, you haven't.
So, my thought lines up very much more with Noah's viewpoint of him being an elitist about it. More specifically, I have been, in my head, associating him with a businessman. Highest level of a company, whatever. He sits in his high position and has the numbers in front of him and the facts to state, hey, we need, in order to supply these people with enough food and nourishment, we would need to double the amount of food or cut half of the people. And he thinks in the best sense to benefit the whole is to better off cut off the half without taking into account how it would affect the people that are cut off, or how the other people that are not cut off would react to half of the people being cut off.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He sees it as like the greater good rather than, oh, this one person's gonna miss their life.
Yes. That I do very much think that is much more, he does in fact genuinely believe this is for the greater good. However skewed that perception is. And that's why I do find him to be a competent, interesting villain. Not likable, I will say, but competent and interesting villain, especially with kind of the Marvel Universe's track record of people's views on the villains.
The best villains tend to be the ones who think that they're the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't remember his name right now, but the guy from Winter Soldier who took over after Fury, quote, died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought he was really well done, because he thought he was actually doing good.
Killmonger as well from Black Panther, I would also put in that boat.
And to some extent, which this isn't like the main reason I think he's a great villain, there are a lot of other reasons. Zemo from Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Who? I'm so sorry. I just said who. I had such a hard time keeping track of all these people.
I mean, honestly,
Zemo from the Civil War villain.
Okay, yeah.
Which, for him, in his mind, what he was doing was good because he was getting rid of people that ended up killing his family, and it was also sort of like a revenge fantasy type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think those two are really great villains. Granted, I can't remember the first one's name, but I remember his plan being very good. And then and Killmonger also is really good. But then you get to a lot of the villains end up just being guy with armor, or man with whips, or big Hulk monster that's not the Hulk, but who cares about him?
All the villains... Yeah. Noah, go ahead.
No, I was just laughing.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like, every Marvel Universe villain, I'm the good guy, but I'm evil.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a very good discussion on Thanos, I think.
Yeah.
So, anyone else have any other big points they want to bring out about this film? Want to talk about this film?
This is still sort of the movie, but also just the MCU in general. I think it's really impressive that Thor has gone from, in my opinion, one of the least interesting characters from his first few appearances to probably my favorite Avenger because of both this and Thor Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has made quite the change, both as a person and through the franchise as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, I have never really cared about the Thor movies until Thor Ragnarok, and then by this point, I'm like, ooh, I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they did really good with him, too, in this movie. I was worried that they were just, because Ragnarok was a standalone, they were going to abandon a lot of that and a lot of the personality that, like, Taika Waititi had brought to his character. But they actually, I think they brought him on, like, for consulting, because it felt very much like a lot of what he did was written by Taika. Mm-hmm. Especially at the very beginning when Thanos is monologuing and he just says, "You talk too much."
Mm-hmm.
That was like a very what we do in the shadows Taika Waititi moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost similar to how Ragnarok opened.
Yeah, like where he was spinning around on the chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could almost kind of see where, again, this is all assumption because I haven't looked into this at all, but I know that James Gunn wrote most, if not all, of the lines for the Guardians. You can kind of see Taika shining through in all the writing, and especially in the writing for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
But any scene he's in, really.
No, yeah. Definitely. And definitely good. And it definitely makes the interactions between all of the different characters all that much better. Because
can we just talk about Drax in general? Drax is amazing.
Yes.
Like, I saw this with my family. My dad does not laugh very often. He doesn't find much funny. I don't know. But, like, anytime Drax said something, or especially, like, the "why is Gamora" line, I burst out laughing.
Yeah.
So that's impressive writing on James Gunn's part.
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about the more so along with the writing, yes, but also more so with the meetups, because I expressed this to Noah after we were walking out of the movie together, and a lot of my favorite moments in this movie were when we got to see people that had not met before meet each other.
Yes, another good one. You're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
Yes. And then, but with that, there are also a lot of moments where, like, oh, hey, these people are meeting together. Oh, wait, they've already met before. Because when like Captain America came to save Visions behind, I was like, oh, they're meeting. Oh, wait, they know each other. Darn it.
But after Civil War, it feels like it's been like 2 years, at least in our universe's time, in the real world time. We don't know if it's maybe been like a couple years longer in universe for the MCU, but it has been a good while since they've seen each other, presumably.
Yeah.
So it is more like a reunion than it is seeing someone you see every day at the office.
Yes.
So it does still feel big and monumental.
Yeah.
Especially since they were on opposite sides in that movie.
That is true. But yeah, I do. A lot of people were saying Thor Ragnarok felt like Guardians of the Galaxy, and that kind of worked with them ending up being the ones to run into each other, I gotta say.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying things I like about this movie, because there is a lot to like about this movie. Like, I will say I don't necessarily think we're towards the end. Like, we're kind of running towards the end, but we might still have a few things to say. But I'll say this really quick. This is probably not going to be like top tier of the Marvel movies, because there are a lot of top tier Marvel movies.
Especially from last year. Last year was a great year for Marvel.
Yes. But
it is
this also, while it is entirely possible, just from cultural osmosis, you could just walk into the theater and see the movie and probably understand most of it. It's going to definitely help you to...
My mom understood it. She's not seen many Marvel movies. Yeah. She understood most of it. She just didn't know where some of the characters came from.
Yeah. Like, you
but
can,
it's very much a movie where you can see it if you've not seen any other Marvel movie, or if you've only seen a couple. Yeah. But you're going to have the best experience if you've seen the first 18, except maybe not Iron Man 2 or Thor 2.
Well, not necessarily all of the 18. You could you probably could skip a couple of the sequels, like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3.
Yeah. I'd argue Iron Man 3 was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
just
kind of a filler.
Well, it's still a good movie, but again, what's really necessary for this particular
actually, maybe we should. This is something we should have maybe started talking about at the beginning before we got into spoilers. But like necessary viewing, I think for this, which I can see a lot of. I know that people have criticized the movie for having you required to see other movies beforehand, but I don't care. This is something they've been building to for 10 years, and it was extremely satisfying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't really like the movie. This movie is very, very, very obviously a culmination movie. So when people are giving them crap about, oh, well, you need so much background. Well, if it's a culmination movie, it's kind of expected that you know at least something. So while I understand the appeal of not having to like do your homework beforehand, if you have to at least have caught up with the pop culture at some point if you want the movie to have the impact it's trying to, because on a much lesser hand, the first Avengers movie, same thing. Like, if you haven't watched all of the other, 3 or 4 movies leading up to that, then it still works to some degree.
But it's not going to have the same impact. It's going to be
the larger impact is totally lost because it's a culmination movie, and this film is that to the umpteenth degree. Like, if you're not connected with these characters, why are you seeing their supposed final battle? Like,
exactly. It's like if you saw it's like if your first Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's somewhat accessible, but why?
Yeah. Precisely. That's
your own.
Like, this is a movie franchise, and this is the largest movie franchise that I can think of. At least the largest movie franchise that has put out so many movies in such a short span of time that are all still connected.
Yeah. No, because there are huge franchises. Like any of the the Hollywood monster movies, like the classics, like Frankenstein, Dracula, those are going to be your largest franchises because there have been multiple movies over the span of at least half a century.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is definitely one of the biggest franchises in the modern sense, especially considering that they've put out almost 20 movies in the past 10 years.
Yes.
And they will have put out 20 movies in the past 10 years by the time we get to this July.
Yes. 10 years and some change, technically, but...
No. Well, I guess, yeah.
Because if we're counting directly from May 2nd of 2008.
If we're talking directly on the dot, then yes, 10 years and some change.
Yes.
But realistically, this has been something that's been building up for 10 years. And they've still made 19 movies within those 10 years, and they will have made 20 movies by the end of 2018.
Yes.
So anyways, back to what I was saying. What I think for this would be required viewing, I'd say probably the first Avengers movie, just to kind of get you used to the idea of the culmination. Maybe Age of Ultron, but realistically, I think they do a good enough job introducing the new characters in Civil War, so you could skip it. Civil War, both of the Guardians movies, one just to get a feel for, like what the Infinity Stones are, because that's where it's first introduced, the concept of Infinity Stones, and one to kind of familiarize yourself with the characters. Thor Ragnarok, because this takes place pretty much directly after.
Yes.
And I think that's probably about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty.
Although also actually maybe Doctor Strange.
Yes, because Time Stone.
Yeah,
I would push Dark World purely because that's where the last Infinity Stone is, but
I think that doesn't matter that much, because if it's in the hands of the collector, you can just assume, oh, maybe he picked it up in his travels, maybe someone brought it in. It's not super necessary to know that it was the ether or that it came from Asgard.
Except, unless you just want proper context for when Thor says, I delivered it to the collector because it was too dangerous to have 2 Infinity Stones in Asgard.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
That's about it.
But also, sure, yeah. If you really care that much about what's pretty much just like a throwaway line, and I don't even remember him mentioning it.
Mm-hmm. No, completely understandable.
Plus, why would you want to torture yourself by sitting through the Dark World? That's like the most boring Marvel movie.
That is true.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But any other points that anyone wants to make?
No, I just want to see it again, to be honest.
Absolutely. I want to see that again right now. Actually, real quick, like one other thing, if I can bring it up.
Yeah.
It's surprising, like, how many people have been talking about it, because, like, 2 days ago, I was at, I had gone to get dinner from a place not far from me, and the cashier there, while I was waiting for my food to come out, he asked me if I had seen Infinity War, and we ended up talking about it for like 10 minutes. And then also, the clerk at Trader Joe's the other day started talking about it to me. So, like,
that's funny.
Yeah, it's amazing that this is getting so much attention, because, like, any other Marvel movie, I'll just hear a few people talking about it here and there, but I've never had anyone actually, like, seek out communication about a movie with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to this extent even.
Yeah.
I know, like, I've had conversations with people that I don't know, like, again, clerks at grocery stores, cashiers at restaurants, about, like, trailers and the hype building up to a movie. And it's been like, hey, did you see the trailer for X movie? Sure, yeah, I did. What did you think? Looks pretty good. But it's never been, like, actually talking about a movie after it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely not for, like, a solid 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover of all time.
Mm-hmm. Let me bring up one more thing of big note. In the first week... One quick thing.
Get it?
What?
I said, did you get it?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, oh, that was my big note.
Okay.
Good one.
Anyway,
Thanks.
last thing I want to bring up before we start wrapping this up is how well Infinity War is doing.
Oh, yeah.
In the first
Didn't
weekend... In the first weekend, it made nearly $750 million. As of May 6th, and it has been over a week and a weekend. It is sitting at $1.164 billion. It is already listed as the 15th highest grossing film of all time.
Jeez Louise.
In a week and a weekend.
I remember what I was going to say, actually. Last note about it. I think they did really well with doing how many characters they had to do, giving them all enough screen time.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my biggest concerns is, oh God, are they going to sidestep half of these characters to just focus on Iron Man? But they didn't. Iron Man and even a lot of the other characters that I thought were going to get a lot of screen time got equal amounts of screen time with pretty much everyone else.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. That's a very good thing that it for the most part, except maybe a couple of characters, like maybe Bucky could have been done with a little better. Like all the characters get a very solid amount of screen time, a reasonable amount of screen time, especially considering how many characters there are.
Yeah, I think that the movie, as any movie, tends to favor certain characters, but I mean, I can only imagine that Captain America kind of took a back seat in this and will therefore be featured much more prominently in the next one. And
that is something that they said, is that the characters who didn't get as much time featured in this movie would get featured a bit more in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to be honest, when all is said and done, I don't think this is a standalone movie. Whatever the sequel is will be the necessary partner movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
It's like Pirates 2. Like, Pirates 2 is my favorite Pirates, so that's a debate for another time. But, like...
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. Pirates 2 was a lot of fun. I just haven't seen the movies in years.
You can't have Pirates 2 without Pirates 3.
Yes.
Like, looking historically. And I think this movie, historically, will need to be viewed with its counterpart.
Yeah.
Yes. But if the track record for Marvel movies keeps up, that will also be a very good film. Knock on wood.
Yes. Especially since the Russos are doing that one too, and it's also been written by the same team who wrote this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll keep it together. But we do have two more movies in the middle. Oh, Noah brought this up, and I completely... We backtracked on it and never went back to it. Captain Marvel.
Oh, right.
Right.
She exists in this universe, and Noah, what did you comment about her while we were leaving the theater?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I do. What you commented was, why didn't Fury call her before?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't quite remember making this comment, but assuming I did, I imagine my thought would be, if she's so prominent, where has she been?
Yep.
That's what a lot of people... The way I see it is that pager saved as just like a last resort thing. Like, if you know the universe is at stake, then you use it, and he doesn't have it on him all the time. So, like, aliens invading New York. The Avengers have got this. Robot dropping a city on the planet. Okay, maybe I'll get involved. I'll bring in some helicarriers. Big purple man wiping out half of life in the universe. Shit, we need Captain Marvel.
Well, he doesn't know that, I don't think.
Well, when he sees people disappearing, and he saw the big thing in the sky, and presumably S.H.I.E.L.D. knows at least something about the Infinity Stones. Or at least, because I know they've dealt with some cosmic stuff in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so presumably they do keep their eye on some cosmic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming he knew or had a general idea of how bad everything was, how dire the situation was, and he thought, okay, let's go find that pager and let's call Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the way I see it.
I love, and this is kind of my last comment on the matter, but I love that he can't just like call her on his cell phone. Like, he needs to have a pager.
Because she's from the 90s.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, it's because she's from the 90s.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and we'll figure that more out.
Maybe she doesn't have a cell phone. Maybe she left for space before cell phones became widely available.
Yeah.
That's true.
It all makes sense when Captain Marvel does come out next year, at the beginning of next year. And before that, we also have Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out this year as well. Hopefully giving us a lighthearted break from all of this heavy drama going on.
Unless Ant-Man and the Wasp ends with Michael Douglas turning into leaves and disappearing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think last thing to say is, how did you like this film overall? Noah?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I think it'll need to be viewed with its part 2 counterpart to really get the full impact, but I'm gonna see it again, so it was good enough for me to spend 2 overpriced movie tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Marvel movies, I think, of all time, but also it should never be someone's first Marvel movie.
Correct. I did bring my point up before, but just in case. Very good film. I love it. Probably not my top purely because you just need to know so much beforehand. But it's still a very good. As well as there's also a lot of really good films in the Marvel universe. So
yeah. The thing is, I don't mind so much that you need to do homework before seeing this, because I've already done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I studied ahead of time. I prepared for the test. I did basically what I don't do in real life for Marvel.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But
so to me, it doesn't. To me, the mandatory viewing stuff, that's not that important because I've seen it already.
Yes.
I mean, definitely, if I had never seen a Marvel movie before, I wouldn't like it as much as I do now. But that really, for me at least, isn't a deciding factor in how I judge the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But yeah. So if you have watched this podcast and did not happen to see Infinity War and decide to watch us first.
What's wrong with you, first of all?
Yes. And secondly, go see this movie. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. It's a great film.
Although maybe not so much after we spoiled it.
Yeah, you
repeatedly.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it and you're doing this, see if you can figure out the plot just by these abstract memes that are beginning to circulate.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that. I talked to people who didn't realize that the thing with the leaves was a meme from the movie.
Yeah.
They just thought it was something people were doing. They didn't get where it was from.
Well, that's good at the very least. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Anyway. But yeah, we all think of this movie very great, and I'm so glad Infinity War is here, and I cannot wait for next year, honestly. But before we get going, Zeus, how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me on Twitter at _Zeus. That's the word underscore spelled out. I'm on Instagram at pcm.exe. I haven't been posting much, but I'm trying to do some more stuff. And you can find me on YouTube at PCM Reviews, where right now I have a few reviews slated, including Power of the Prime's Abominus, or not Abominus, sorry.
I was going to say.
I jumped the gun a little bit there. Studio Series Ratchet, and then I've got some other stuff that I've got in the backlog that I need to actually get around to filming.
Mm-hmm. Noah, where can people find you at?
People can find my performance videos, original music, and Disney vlogs on YouTube. Just search Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. That's my name. You can also find me on Instagram at Noah Sunday Lefkowitz, as well as my website, noahsundaylefkowitz.com.
And
I just subscribed.
Hey.
And what's my outro? I'm forgetting. If you and
I've done this with you a plethora of times, and not once have you remembered your outro.
It's so I need to change it to fit the Rambles outro better. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SoundJack426. And also, if you want, you can donate on my Patreon page to help support the channel. All of those links will be in the description below. Thank you all for tuning in, and this is SoundJack, Noah, and Zeus signing off.